The Indian iron and steel industry, which contributes to around 2% of the GDP, is undergoing some significant changes due to evolving EU Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism (CBAM) reporting rules. And India is at the epicenter of its impacts. In this video, we will understand how CBAM is changing the Indian iron and steel industry. CBAM is the EU's carbon pricing mechanism for 6 sectors of carbon-intensive imports, including iron and steel, aluminium, cement, electricity, and hydrogen. It's designed to prevent carbon leakage, a situation or a phenomenon where companies relocate their production units of carbon-intensive products from the European Union to countries with lax climate policies. And India is directly affected by CBAM due to its high emission production methods. With India being the second largest crude steel producer and EU-bound exports making up over 23% of our steel trade, the impact is massive, especially for MSMEs. Some primary reasons for the CBAM impact on the Indian iron and steel industry and sector is that it is the second largest producer in the world, besides being high carbon intensive. If we look at the emission levels that the Indian steel industry is responsible for, credible data indicates that the steel industry of India accounts for about 10 to 12% of India's total emissions. Why is the Indian iron and steel sector highly vulnerable to CBAM reporting? The European Union's Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism (CBAM) is causing significant trade pattern shifts, and India's secondary iron and steel industry is set to witness more intensive changes as it represents 40% of the nation's steel production. This challenge is particularly critical for India's MSMEs, medium-small enterprises, in the secondary steel sector, which are already facing barriers like low awareness and gaps in emissions data collection. The potential impact of CBAM will be felt on India's steel exports even after the omnibus package, focusing on the secondary steel sector, largely composed of micro, small and medium enterprises (MSMEs). Now, the total contribution of MSMEs to the GDP is 38%, which indicates the steel sector economic powerhouse that will witness major ripples. First examination of this data indicates that close to half of India's GDP will be under impact due to CBAM, causing significant impact on India's economy, trade and business. Let's look at the data one by one. What is India's steel exports to the EU? In financial year 2020 and 23, India's iron and steel exports to the European Union represented 23.5% of its total steel exports, valued at over $13 billion. What are the financial implications? CBAM could impose an additional 25% of carbon tax on Indian CBAM-covered goods exports to the European Union, including steel, significantly raising costs and reducing competitiveness as per the Center for Science and Environment study. How does CBAM impact the Indian steel sector? Steel producers in India are at the most risk from Europe's new carbon tax. There could be an addition of $102 to $190 ton of tax charges on imports of Indian steel over the next decade, owing to the high embedded carbon emissions in Indian steel. As per reports, a major challenge to India becoming a fully green production hub is systematic and accurate carbon emissions data collection. Additionally, the massive amount of data needs to be managed and processed digitally for efficient outcomes. What are some major CBAM challenges for iron and steel companies? The challenges associated with CBAM compliance are multifaceted, requiring the implementation of comprehensive systems and processes to meet regulatory obligations. Some primary challenges include low awareness, accurate calculation, data auditability, carbon traceability, and technology adoption. CBAM is a challenge, but also an opportunity for business expansion if the right technology is used. It can drive innovation, clean tech adoption, and better global trade alignment. For India's steel industry, the time to prepare is now. To learn more or get CBAM compliant, connect with us at cleancarbon.ai.